Alright, man, peace. You know, brothers, I've had many cats ask me, what's the deal with Russell Wilson? Why does he want out of Seattle? What's this storyline all about? And as I've alluded to in other videos, it has a direct correlation to the situation that is currently transpiring with Deshaun Watson in Houston. And notice that both players suggested that they should be traded to the Jets. As I've already stated, if you're a quarterback who aspires to win, the last place that you would suggest or request to be traded to are the New York Jets. So that tells me that the real motivation behind their trade request was not just for winning, or not really for winning at all, is so that they could augment their corporate profile and their entertainment industry level status. And what would be the motivating factor behind two NFL quarterbacks deciding that that would be the reasoning for requesting a trade to a particular franchise other than the women that they're with? In the case of Deshaun Watson, it's Jilly Anais, or Anais, however you pronounce her name. And in the case of Mr. Russell Wilson, it's none other than Ciara, who is his MK handler. I'll probably have to do a series on that in the near future. We're going to try to keep this video in the two-dimensional realm. But Ciara is Russell Wilson's MK handler. Their relationship is scripted. Ciara is Monarch programmed, as is Russell Wilson. Russell is a Monarch athlete. In order to keep Ciara's name in the press and to keep her relevant, they had to assign her to Russell Wilson because her career was starting to die down. They had linked her up with Future, with 50 Cent, and she was unable to make many of those relationships last. Now they've moved her over to their Monarch programmed athlete, Russell Wilson. And the real purpose of their relationship is to once again try to promote the simp program amongst so-called black men and males in general here in America, but also because he's an asset that needs to be handled. And they want to try to relocate him if possible. You'll probably see that should Russell ever be traded to the Jets or a franchise that's located in a major city, you'll see a whole different version of him. He might even dye his hair blonde. So look out for things like that. But Ciara is his handler. That's the main reason why he wants out of Seattle, because they're trying to augment Ciara's career. Now, I'm not aware if he's done this already, but don't be surprised if Russell requests a trade to the Las Vegas Raiders, because Las Vegas is a region where they like to take many of their entertainment assets, especially as their careers start to wind down. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
And it is the big question on the minds of Seahawks fans. Will Wilson be the team's starting quarterback moving forward? Well, Carlos Dunlap is giving fans the reassurance they need that Russell Wilson isn't going anywhere. Take a listen.
I did ask him if obviously he was going to be with us, because if I'm coming back because I see him as my quarterback, and the rest of the team, I want to pick up where we left off.
Right, but you know what, no disrespect to Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson is not a quarterback who's going to lead the team to a championship just based on his exploits. He's not tall enough and he's not great enough. No disrespect, he's a great quarterback. But at the end of the day, his lack of height and stature is a major issue, especially when he goes up against great defenses who know how to keep him bottled into the pocket. And when he is able to spin out, they basically can ferry him over to a location where he can stop from being a scrambling threat. So there's only so far that Russell Wilson's going to be able to take a team as the best player on the squad. He needs to have a dominant defense in order to win or have the potential to win a championship. So this notion that Russell is some type of quarterback on the level of a Tom Brady or of a Patrick Mahomes, no, that's not the case. That's never been the case. But what Russell is the most dynamic small quarterback of all time.
So man, he's with us and he's here to stay, and he said, you know,
slightly above Fran Tarkenton.
Go Hawks, and I'm not going to quote his every word, or these words are not his words verbatim, but these are my explanation of how I interpreted what he said.
Carlos Dunlap out here with the scoop. Max, are you buying Wilson's commitment to the Seahawks?
I'm not. It's only a matter of time before he requests another trade, because Ciara is the one pulling the strings with Russell Wilson. There's very little doubt about that in my mind. Eventually, he will try to demand another trade. And I don't even think Charlie Arnold in the middle is buying it, because she's making that face like, come on, Russ, you really want out. You want to go to a major market. A lot of these females, they could pick up on a simp. And therefore, they could pick up on his real motivation.
Hell no. Hell no. If I'm buying that he told Carlos Dunlap that,
Absolutely, in the same way that a parent will lie to their child when they're about to go through a divorce. Oh no, Timmy, everything is okay with me and Daddy. You can go to sleep. And then 2 months from now, Daddy and Mommy are living in separate homes.
If Dunlap says he said it, I believe him. I believe Russell Wilson's probably beating teammates in the head with all kinds of stuff since he threw them under the bus, especially the offensive line.
Absolutely. He was desperate to get up out of Seattle. It's clear that he's living his life comparatively, and he's also having his strings pulled by his wife. And he's had that situation for a while now. At the end of the day, there's no way in the world that Ciara's trying to live in Seattle for the rest of her life.
Look, love Russell Wilson, big Russell Wilson fan, but you got to call it like it is. Russell Wilson, like, if you are committed to a team, is your agent releasing on the record the names of 4 teams you would accept the trade to?
No, Max Kellerman, probably not. But once again, that's testimony to the notion that it's very clear that Russell Wilson had full intentions of forcing his way out of Seattle, because you can't get much more flagrant than that. That's the equivalent of a husband and wife agreeing to separate, and the husband goes to work and he comes home and he finds his soon-to-be ex-wife getting dug out by the UPS guy or by the mailman or by the milkman or whoever. It's like, okay, I get the point, bitch, you're done, but damn, you got to be that disrespectful?
On the record, this wasn't leaked to the press. This was Russell Wilson's official representative on the record saying this team, this team, this team, this team. We go there. Of course, he prefaces it with, I'm not.
Okay, so yes, he did request a trade to the Raiders. And it's obvious, once again, the reason why he requested the trade to the Raiders is because Las Vegas is where celebrities go to die. It's where they can start their little, their little in-house occupancies where they can have concerts and go over their old hits and still make millions of dollars. So that's all about Ciara right there. And they left out the Jets, a team that he was flirting with or has been flirting with for the past couple of years or so.
Asking for a trade. Stop it. Stop it. Saints, Cowboys, Raiders, Bears. You know what that means? That means he sat down with his agent.
No, he sat down with Ciara, and she said, I wouldn't mind going to New Orleans, Dallas, Las Vegas, Chicago, or New York. Because he realized he's not going to get traded to the Rams. Believe me, if he could have, he would have requested the Rams, but he knows he can't get there because that's an in-division, in-conference team.
Probably his wife, I would imagine. Family decision, right? And went over everything carefully. Rosters, cities, this, that, the other. Power in the organization, what it means for legacy, all these kind of business interests, competitive interests, and narrowed it down to 4 teams. There are 32 teams. They went over this team, no, that has a quarterback, and released it to the press. And now he's telling teammates, what is he supposed to say? He wasn't accommodated, right? The Bears tried, couldn't put together a package good enough. So he's there for right now. What are you supposed to tell your teammates? And Stephen A., I'm not even talking about the defensive players, who we also kind of threw under the bus, right? The defense isn't good enough, basically.
Yeah, this is not really looking good for Russell, but he's desperate. For him to throw the defensive players under the bus, I mean, dude, you're throwing double-digit interceptions every year. Every year you start off the first 7 or 8 games of the season as the best quarterback in the NFL, and you start to wear down over the course of the season because you're playing the wrong style of offense. Russell wants to blame the defense, but at the end of the day, the reason why the defense always looks so bad in Seattle the first 7 or 8 games of the season is because Russell always starts out trying to win the MVP, so he wants to throw the ball 45, 50 times a game. And that means more turnovers. That means the defense spends more time on the field because the time of possession is severely diminished by the Seattle Seahawks because they won't run the football. That means that the defense gets more and more fatigued as the game goes along. Seattle's one of the teams whose defense normally gets better as the year goes along because that's around the time that Pete Carroll says, okay, Russell, let's stop playing games. You're not going to win the MVP. Now we're going to start to run the football more.
The offensive line. Do you know the kind of conversations Russell Wilson has had to have since then with his teammates? I don't doubt his teammates that he's saying certain things to them that are leading them to believe that. But Stephen A., if they could work out a trade to one of those 4 teams you need to tell me I'm supposed to believe he wouldn't okay it today, then why release the names?
Well, I don't think they're going to be able to work it out. That's number one. That's one of the biggest reasons I think Russell Wilson may have said what he said to Carlos Dunlap, number one. Number two, I think that it's entirely plausible that Russell Wilson's going to end up staying in Seattle because he's one of the gifted quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, he's going to stay in Seattle for now because there are no locations that he's going to be able to force a trade to. And that's really what it's about. Life is about options. He can't go to the Giants because they already have a young quarterback that they're trying to build around. He can't go to the Jets because the Jets are going to draft a quarterback, presumably. He can't go to the New Orleans Saints because Seattle's not going to trade him to an in-conference rival that is legitimately only a quarterback away from making another serious run for a championship. They're not going to trade him to the Bears because the Bears are another team that is really only a quarterback away from making a serious run towards the championship. So now he has to act as if he's ready to stay where he's at. But it's very similar to a relationship. You know, if you're with someone, your significant other, and they're always making threats to leave, you have to cut that person off because they want to leave. And at their earliest convenience, they're going to set the stage for their departure.
Hall of Famer, in case no one, I mean, we never really bring that up. He's a future Hall of Famer. The brother can play. 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions last year, completed better than 68% of his passes. Max Kellerman, do you know that Russell Wilson was sacked 47 times last year? Do you know that over the last 3 years?
Right, but is that strictly because the offensive line is that bad, or is it because Russell Wilson probably holds the football as long as any quarterback in the NFL and is always scrambling and moving out of the pocket from where the protection expects him to be? You can't always blame the offensive line when a quarterback takes a lot of sacks. Sometimes it's because Russell Wilson is so short, he has to try to find passing lanes outside of the pocket because he can't throw over the defensive line.
He's been sacked 51, 48, and 47 times. Do you know that in his 9-year career, he's been sacked 394 times? Do you know that with the exception of his rookie year, he has never been sacked less than 41 times in a season? And that doesn't count the hits. And so when we take that into consideration, he got tired of being beat up, and he called out the team because Pete Carroll clearly wasn't doing so. Pete Carroll wanted him to be that savior. Look, I got rid of the Legion of Boom. We've handed the franchise to you. You've gotten everything you wanted. That was Pete Carroll's mentality. And Russell Wilson's like, hell no, it ain't that simple. Because guess what? I still need to be protected before I do what I do. I can't be smothered and swamped and beat up all the damn time. He's got these trunks for legs, Max. He's short. He's not small. People who think Russell Wilson is small, you're not paying attention.
Right, but Stephen A. Smith, that doesn't really matter in the overall context of the conversation because we're not talking about a Mr. Olympia or Mr. Universe contest. The issue is Russell's lack of stature or height because that's what leads him to have to stand in the pocket longer than he should or have to always move or roll out of the pocket and hold the ball longer than he should because he's not tall enough to see over the defense. That's why he takes a lot of sacks. I would guesstimate that he probably takes anywhere from 12 to even 20 sacks a year because of how long he holds the football.
You need to get your eyes checked, okay? Because this dude right here, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. And so when I look at him and I listen to what he says, guess who else was listening to what he said, Max Kellerman? It had to...
His wife?
Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll had to listen to this man. Pete Carroll is not a dummy. Pete Carroll won a national championship in USC. Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl championship in Seattle. He's been to 2 Super Bowls as a head coach. The man knows what he's doing. Over the last 3 years, 10, 11, and 12 wins. They've been moving up and up and up.
Right, but they're not a serious threat, and everybody knows that. The Seahawks are not a serious threat to win a championship. They're missing something on defense. They're missing something with the running game. And at the end of the day, they're going to get to the playoffs, have to count on Russell Wilson, and they're going to face an elite defense that will bottle him in and force him to have to throw regular passes over a defensive line, and he's going to look anywhere from average to sub-average.
They only won 1 playoff game in that sequence. Bottom line is this. Pete Carroll is no dummy. And Pete Carroll heard Russell Wilson do something Russell Wilson has never done, which is call him out and basically said, look, I'm out of here if you're going to continue to act this way. I have no doubt that in the time span that Russell Wilson spoke and we talked about what his future prospects might be, Pete Carroll met up with him, probably apologized, is listening to him more, swears he is anyway, and as a result, that's what led to Russell Wilson saying to Carlos Dunlap, yo, I'm not going anywhere. Let's go Hawks.
Well, that's a lot of surmising, but I'll give you this much credit. It's believable. It's credible what you're saying, Stephen A. Smith, but also let's understand, great coaches listening too much to their quarterbacks very rarely results in championships. It normally results in better stats for their quarterback. And that appears to be what Russell Wilson is concerned with, just as much as, if not more than, winning a Super Bowl. When he came out at the beginning of last season and started to politic for the regular season MVP award, I knew that his mind was not in the right place. Because if your mind is in the right place and you're a great player, those are the type of situations that will befall you or just naturally come upon you at the end of the season. Seeing Aaron Rodgers, who actually started to listen to his coach more as opposed to being combative with his coach, and we saw Aaron Rodgers playing at the highest level he's ever played at in his entire career. So maybe Russell Wilson needs to simmer down and listen to his coach more than he does his handler.
Because the coach is finally listening to his star quarterback and treating him with the respect and deference.
Let me say that Russell Wilson was handed the keys. They did get rid of the Legion of Boom, and that was smart because defensive players age out of their prime faster than quarterbacks. And so they made a commitment to the quarterback and paid him an enormous percentage of the cap back then. That means you have to play hero sometimes. Like, you got to carry more of the load, right? That's why.
But what that also means is, on the part of Pete Carroll, he has to do a better job of drafting. He's done a very poor job of scouting talent since the dissolution of the Legion of Boom. And Russell Wilson is not good enough to play hero quarterback, at least if your intention is to win a championship. He'll be exciting in the regular season. He's a lot like a James Harden. If he's by himself and he's the best guy, he'll be fun to watch in the regular season, but in the postseason, when more physicality is allowed and teams have an opportunity to hone in on what you do well, he's not going to perform to the same level of proficiency. He's just not. He has too many physical deficiencies.
Besides Carson Wentz, you got paid like that. Now, oh, you have problems? Carry. You know, that's why you're getting paid like a franchise quarterback. And Russell Wilson has. One of the mistakes the team made was they felt like they could draft and get guys off practice squads, whatever, offensive linemen, and coach them up. And that was a mistake because the whole thing on the offensive line started.
Right, but you know what? It's very difficult to pay for top-notch offensive linemen when your quarterback wants to be paid the highest amount of any player in the National Football League, like Russell Wilson consistently does. People don't like to hear this stated, but at the end of the day, if your league has a hard salary cap, if you want to experience continuous success, you are going to have to sacrifice financially. The Tom Brady's, the Patrick Mahomes' understand that. The quarterbacks who try to go, get the optimal amount of payment every time they're negotiating their contracts, they're not going to win. Dak Prescott's not going to win with the Dallas Cowboys. He's just not. Now, people might say, well, wait a minute, there's going to be a financial windfall soon, especially with, the renegotiations that are going to be occurring, the TV contracts, the overall salary cap is going to explode exponentially. Right, but still, it's a psychological thing. When the teammates see that there's a player who's not cognizant of everybody eating, at least in their minds, that's how their minds are going to work, they're not going to bring forth their best effort. It's very difficult for a quarterback who's being paid the highest amount in the NFL and who seeks after the highest contract to make the most that he can possibly make to walk back into that locker room and tell everybody else to sacrifice.
Falling apart when they traded Max Unger, right? There goes Jimmy Graham, a tight end who's really more like a receiver, will get him a big target. And the offensive line kind of fell apart at that point. But Stephen A., they did a better job recently of devoting more resources to the line. And to my eye, it looks like the offensive line has played better. And you can see the returns in the run game.
Well, they played better, man.
So part of Russell Wilson's problem, as he acknowledged, part of his problem is that he holds the ball.
Thank you, sir.
Just let Russ cook. He holds the ball. There's an upside and a downside to that.
Well, again, you got to have the personnel that can get open, and we're certainly not accusing DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett of not being able to get open, but there's more to it than that. And if you ultimately had a scheme, and that scheme was compromised because your offensive line isn't that good, that's a problem. Now, the offensive line has improved, but it was still ranked in the bottom half by Pro Football Focus. Let's remember that. And so,
well, the quarterback also has to assist the offensive line in getting their metrics up. There are ways that you can assist your offensive line. Tom Brady assisted that Tampa Bay offensive line last season because he already knows who he's going to throw to before the ball is snapped.
That just shows you how bad it was. We're pointing to the improvement, but we can't point to the improvement while negating the fact that while improved, you still ranked in the bottom half, which shows you how bad it was for them.
Yeah, they weren't great.
Yeah, the Seahawks do not have a first-round pick. They gave it to the Jets for Jamal Adams, but it will be interesting to see what Wilson's effect is on their later picks. All right, guys, we got...
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. We'll see how things transpire with Mr. Russell Wilson, especially in allegiance to his handler, that being Miss Ciara. So peace.